blame the system. Where was his father? It starts in the house. It starts in the home. And yeah, well, my father got locked up. Well, where was his father?
It's funny you say that, but what about the fathers that are in the home but are still absent?
Ain't like I'm still 5 years old, you know? Ain't like I'm gonna be sitting up every night asking my mom, when's daddy coming home, you know? Who needs him? Hey, he wasn't there to teach me how to shoot my first basket, but I learned, didn't I? Hey, I got pretty damn good at it too, didn't I, Uncle Phil? Got through my first date without him, right? I learned how to drive, I learned how to shave, I learned how to fight without him. I had 14 great birthdays without him. He never even sent me a damn card. To hell with him!
And there's plenty of black men in particular who got plenty of excuses as to why they're not involved and more, you know, around their children. But I also want to address this, which a lot of people don't talk about. How often is that black father or father in general reaching out, trying to get access to his kids, and because you're dealing with an ex-wife, girlfriend, mother of your child, fiance, who's now bitter and hostile and angry because the relationship is no longer, who's going above and beyond to use that resentment to block access from the father getting to the child.
Let's start with a father's role in his son's life. What is that role?
Protector,
Protector,
provider,
and
to be a model, a demonstration of what it is to be a man.
For me, fatherhood is about responsibility. It's about men being there for their children, their grandchildren, and other young people in their lives. It's about showing up and being present.
Fatherhood is the combination of protection and caring, discipline and goofiness. Fatherhood is dependability. Someone that you know is going to come no matter what the situation is. I think of fatherhood, not being a father, but fatherhood is an act of giving of yourself to your children, knowing that sometimes you're not going to be liked, but their well-being supersedes everything else in your life. Here in Wilmington, Delaware, we are filming our Game Changer Fatherhood Initiative. Tonight, we're going to have an interesting discussion here at Club 6 Barbershop at 12 Mario Drive in Bear, Delaware, where we're going to discuss what is fatherhood and what does it mean to me or you. What does it mean to be a father? And you're going to hear how it sounds when we're talking about it when everybody's not around. Come on in. Let's go on inside. Hey y'all, what's going on? How y'all doing today? Hey, what's up, y'all? What's going on? Who's next? Okay, so we're here at Club 6 talking about what is fatherhood. Now, I think the majority of people here are fathers. Little lady behind us, right? And we're just going to ask the question: what is fatherhood to you? What do y'all think fatherhood is? You know, especially in the way the world is now, the way the nuclear family isn't quite nuclear. Some people live with their kids, some people don't. Some people have their kids part-time, some people don't. Some people are stepdads. What is it to be a father? Is it the same for me as it is maybe for men? I grew up in an older time period where dads were supposed to be like the building blocks of the backbone, the good time dads that sat around and like they kept everybody in check. So we want to ask the question: what does fatherhood mean to you? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Put me on the fly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, let me ask you for that. So, when you was growing up, was your dad around?
Half the time.
Half the time. Okay. And so to you, in your thoughts, knowing that, what was fatherhood to you? What did it mean to you?
Man, when you grow up to be a half of the time, so you end up clinging to another male figure in your life that take on that role. For me, it was sports. So I had my coaches. They helped me out tremendously. Did things I never thought would be happening before. My father wasn't there at the time. They took me in under their wing and helped me get better at sports, let me play football better, just being a great role model that I was looking for.
I jumped in on that. All right, that's good. What's going on? What about you, man? What's fatherhood mean to you?
Fatherhood to me is one of the most important yet undermined jobs we can have as men. I feel like it's our responsibility, to take care of our children because that affects their development later on in life.
My father, even though as I've gotten older, and actually in the last 2 years, because that's when I actually saw him again after 30 years, I think that my father kind of taught me how I did not want to be.
I think that generations cause fatherhood to change essentially because, now you got two working parents and the household responsibilities are kind of being split between the two. So you need parenting aspects from both parents because before the mom was always present. So she had all the qualities that were going to be instilled by the children. And the father was essentially out of the home working and showing the children the role of being a provider or self-sufficient or going out in the world and becoming successful in whatever working structure that you were going to have. But these days, like now you got both parents, so you have fathers starting to realize that they have to have some of these qualities and aspects. Like they have to be understanding. They also have to be nurturing and compassionate. They can't just, have that rigid structure that we kind of grew up under. That like fathers have evolved a little bit in this new contemporary society.
And when you raise your child, you keep that in sight, or talk about self-care, or allow your son to cry a little bit, right? Because when we grew up, life was harder.
You weren't allowed to cry.
Yeah, but also it was a little rougher to an extent. Like we had to walk to school. Now kids don't walk as much or the same distances that we did, or parents are driving their kids more than what they had to. The things like my son isn't half as mature as I was at 11. And he's 11 because he doesn't have half the responsibilities I did.
But we kind of pacify our kids a little bit more than our parents did to us. Like you said, if I want to get around, I had to take shelter or I had to walk. Nowadays, Dad, can I get a ride? Mom, can I get a ride? It's a little bit different,
I was a latchkey kid.
Yeah.
So when I grew up, I was a latchkey kid.
Mm-hmm.
So there was no you gotta not be mature. Here's a key to the house. Don't you lose the key to the house.
And don't answer the door with somebody ringing.
Don't answer the door.
Don't burn my house down.
Don't burn my house down.
What fatherhood means to me. When I think of fatherhood, I think of selflessness. A lot of times you want to be selfish. You want to go on a trip by yourself. You want to do something for yourself, but you can't. You have a family you have to take care of. You have a wife, you have children, and you put everything and everyone else before you. And because of that, that corresponds to the commitment that you have towards your family.
Fatherhood to me is a man or a young man who is present in their child's life, whether good or bad, right or wrong. Someone who always comes when they call, and they don't even really have to be your biological father. They could be any man who is present in a child's life, who is consistent and constant and loving and supportive and just accepts their child for who they are and is always willing to go the extra mile, but also there to give them that little nudge when they need it.
What resonated with me is being a father and a grandfather, is being a positive role model, respect my children's mother, being present, showing affection, taking out the time for them, listening to their conversation change as they grow. And I learned this from a father that wasn't there for me.
We allow mothers to grow. We encourage mothers to become better people. For fathers, it's either you're there or you're not. And if you're not all the way there, then you're getting criticized. And then you gotta also take the burden for all the fathers who are not there. So at some point, we have to start understanding that fathers also need to be encouraged the same way we're encouraging the mothers in society.
Well, just to kind of take that a step further and slightly in a different direction, I think that, as I think all of us would champion being progressive and that, a progressive society does have its benefits, I think a byproduct of that is demonizing what people would call gender roles. I think that a man is the best model to show a boy to how and raise him into becoming a man. There's nothing disparaging. It's not disparaging a woman's impact in that regard, because some women have to do that, unfortunately. But I think a man is best equipped to raise a young boy into a man. And I think that sometimes, the men, that's why we say we're the provider. I think that we are the protector. Those are things that are, at least in my situation, that's what my dad still knew. Like, I had my father for, a number of years, and once I turned 18, I always say that once my parents got divorced, he kind of divorced me too. But the things that he instilled in me was, I saw him work 2 or 3 jobs to support my family, to support the family. I saw him, when his truck broke down, he walked in a snow blitz to make it home. And I asked him, well, were you afraid, Dad? And he was like, nah, because I had you and your mom and your mom in my mind. That's how I got home. Those are certain things that I think men can instill into their sons and how we can be equipped to become men. And I think that, a byproduct of that, when you say, okay, well, that's a man's job, it can kind of be demonized in a way, because then, some people can start to say, oh, well, that's, chauvinism, or it's a patriarchal society and all of that. Third, I don't think that there's anything wrong with saying a man is best equipped to raise a boy into a man.
You go back, you talking about when the tribe, the alpha male was the first one in the war. You need a strong men. That's why when we talk about the women sat behind, and normally you had strong men that went out to war and they went out, fought and hunted, because you need to go do all these other things. So those are things that are instilled in us. Even if you go back and you look back, that's why men went to war, because the assumption men need to go fight. We're the strongest, we're the best to provide. Now, as society has changed, the jobs, you don't need to go chop wood anymore. You don't need to go lift crap anymore, and all those other things. So now women can physically do a lot of the jobs that men used to do easier and be a provider and supply. My wife is traditional. I live in a traditional house. She go cook the groceries. When she pull up the car, she call me and be like, yo, I'm here. I know what that means. Come get all the stuff out the car. She don't lift nothing, don't do nothing, but she brings me my food, and I'm blessed to have somebody that matches my flow, right? Right? Yeah, exactly. For me, right? But what I'm saying is, when you understand those things, then you start to look at it completely different. When you understand who we are as men, why we are men, why we even defer to the alpha or the strongest male. Because when you get in there in a room, you in a fraternity, room full of alphas, right? There's always a alpha. And so, and when I mean alpha, I mean alpha male. Yeah. Right? Ain't none of them in here. Ain't none of them in here, right?
But when you're raising boys, like somebody else said, you still need that man or a male role model in that man's life. A woman can't teach a man how to be a man, and a man can't teach a woman how to be a woman.
Now hold it. What to be clear, a woman doesn't need a man, but that child does. Right. And a lot of times, a lot of times, the importance of a man is downplayed, or it's not held in the regard that it should be, because men teach boys how to be men. Men teach, fathers teach daughters how to be loved. They're the first impression. And I think when the court gets involved, I think that is what puts the negative light on the men, because the mother isn't in alignment with the father, so then that impacts the father being around. And then it's just like, he ain't cracked, he don't want to be around, but it's just like, you don't know what all is going on behind the scenes. And a lot of that comes out when the child gets older, and it's like the damage is already done. So now I'm playing catch up and repair mode. You know what I'm saying? So that puts us at a disadvantage. I think it's just like, you gotta think outside yourself. Like me and the dad, we may not be working, but let me not step in the way of him trying to father his son, him trying to father his daughter.
You know, to piggyback off of what the brother said, in today's society, you have, when I was growing up, it was not a shame to discipline your kid. Society has taken all of that. Now you have, you know, and I don't want to make it sound like a racial thing, but now you have white folks that will come in and tell you, you can't do that. Let the kid express himself. Give him his freedom, give him time out. That wasn't allowed when we had a strict control, and we was in control. We, as you can see, the brothers here today, we're doing fine, and I'm sure we had that discipline back there. I know I did. It didn't put me in jail, and I wasn't abused and none of that. But society and white folks told you to take that away, and each and every time when that happened, it demasculate the black male, because now when you look at society now, he is no longer in charge.
Because it was just an article on television about that black men are more involved in their children than any other race.
That's a common misconception.
Yeah, and so as we get there and we continue to listen to society, most of the time in society, it's what we hear on the news.
Sometimes you're being judged, like you said, by people who didn't do anything, right? But that's the nature of being a father. You still have to stand in the middle of the storm. That's what it feels like to be a dad.
We have to atone for the sins of every black man. So when I'm looked at as a black man, I'm looked at as I'm probably not a good father. I'm probably not present. Even though statistics say that's not true. And if you look at the statistics overall, there's 2.5 million households for parents, and 1.7 million of those households have the black father present. So overwhelming majority of black men actually live with their kids.
What fatherhood means to me means support, means being loved, cared for, and guided.
What fatherhood means to me is as being a daughter, not as a son, I can't speak for being a son, but as being a daughter, having a father there that shows me what a man is supposed to be, what my expectations should be, and when I'm looking in for a husband or for a boyfriend, what my expectations for him should be shown through my father. Like, my father shows up with, presents for Valentine's Day, make sure he texts me for important events, things like that. That is what I feel as though fatherhood is, like being there for your daughter or your son and showing them how they should be treated as a person in the real world. And yeah, so just being loved and loving your child.
This is a very, very prolific conversation that it can go on and on about what fatherhood is and what it means to me and what it means to everybody else. It seems like it means something different to everybody else. So with that I'll say, thank you for being here with us today. The guys really, really enjoyed talking to you, I hope. Anyway, we got a nice conversation out. But thank you for coming to the Game Changer. Thanks for coming to the Game Changer program. And this is Craig Wolfrey, and y'all have a good night.